people in regard
Mm,
to today,
okay.
first of October.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, like I mean, I'm not clear enough right now to figure it out. What I saw or what I'm talking about. I think we're live. Let me
That's
see.
that's all right.
Um, yeah, they were talking about the beginning October 1st, or at least these first few days,
Mhm.
how um, I don't know how I can put this into words because I can't even think straight at the moment. But that yeah, we would start to manifest and collaborate and co-create finally, kind of thing.
That
Um,
sounds great. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the new, yeah, like in the new energy or something to that effect, or maybe even in the energy of 2026. If you look at it from the Gregorian calendar,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're good. We got a few people coming in here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey everyone. Yeah, well
Yeah.
sense.
So,
It
uh,
makes sense what you're saying because just this past Sunday,
uh,
I helped co-organize Elevate. It's the second annual uh, event in Hot Springs
that's
where
right.
we have vendors and workshops and music, and it's produced. We're organizing it in with the Alliance for New Earth, a nonprofit that I'm a part of, and here in Hot Springs, and it was off the charts. I mean,
Really?
energy was just everyone coming together, the conversations. I mean, there was just a high vibe frequency all day long. I mean, it was just,
This was what, September 6th, wasn't it?
no, this was Sunday, this past Sunday, September
Oh,
28th. So, like,
oh,
I feel that energy, that you're talking about with collaboration and connection,
right.
and there was a spike in the sun activity in the evening that day too, and we're receiving some geomagnetic storms right now, which is, in my experience, is always codes from the sun. So
Right,
to
right.
really elevate our consciousness. So
Well,
yeah,
I'd seen that a couple of places where the 28th, 29th, and 30th were going to be supercharged.
yeah.
And I remember the front of that. Yeah, there was let's see, what was it? Um it would have been what, 2 days ago? So that would have been the 29th. It was the 28th or 29th. There was something like
Yeah.
18 or 21 solar flares, like 3M flares
Whoa.
and a geomagnetic storm, that was happening all at the same time.
Okay, well, I guess that's part of it, man. It was alive, that energy for sure. I'll have to look back at that since I was so focused because, setting up and, being a part of it all day and then taking down and then integrating the last couple of days. I haven't really paid attention to all the
Well, it's
astrology
good to
and
stay
charts and
busy
everything.
sometimes. Yeah, it's good to stay busy sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you? What are you feeling? What's your experience?
Uh,
You know?
Kind of a whirlwind. September
Yeah.
was just, yeah. I mean, September was a big month. Well, it's a month of completion, right? I mean, it's a year of completion, month of
Yeah.
completion. I think there was three triple nine days. We had
Yeah.
two eclipses and the equinox.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw a lot of that, a
Yeah.
lot of completion, and then kind of like I said, a few different people, a few different streams that were talking about this is the completion of the older.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get it right, but basically we're kicking it up, going into this new energy that started with 2025
Yeah.
since that last solstice in the winter of 2024. And that, I don't know, it just it feels lighter, but it also feels, and I don't know if everybody would have the same experience as me. I doubt it, but I'm seeing within myself and some other people, which is basically, I really don't know what I'm doing next week. I don't know where I'm going to be. I kind of know what I'm doing purpose wise. Pieces are coming together, but there's still this, I don't know, like this prevalent, inevitable uh, method of experiencing life and creating that we've have it done for thousands of years, maybe since before the flood,
Yeah.
where we're, kind of instant manifestation like we do in dimension,
Hmm.
having material properties, but operating in a whole different way. And we're headed towards a place where nobody owns anything, not like the WEF's, version, but where, it's a free flowing atmosphere. I don't know. I just feel like there's gonna be tremendous changes very quickly, uh, even before or say between now and the end of the year, and that includes belief systems.
Hmm.
Like if you have this big, what is it? Atlas three
Three
one Atlas.
Atlas. Yeah.
Yeah, just the symbology of that,
Yeah.
and all the different reports, and then the narratives running of, oh, this is going to be a fake alien invasion, or hey, this is carrying some of our people, or or energetically speaking, or metaphorically speaking. To me, you know what it reminds me of?
Hmm.
It reminds me of. Have you been to Sedona?
Yeah.
We talked about that. Okay, so I've been there 12 times, and the I always call it like it's like a cosmic, galactic, elemental, multidimensional, supernatural highway. Have you ever been in a city like Dallas or Chicago,
Yes.
and you'll come to, like, they call it a spaghetti bowl, and it'll be all these
Yes.
highways kind of coming together, and they're all going in circles.
Yes.
So for me,
Infinity symbols.
you know what I mean? To me, that's
Vortex.
kind of what it feels like we're moving into. Not so much in a disorienting way, although there can be some of that going on, and not so much that everything's divergent, because the fact is they're all kind of converging. Everything's kind of being pulled back in.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's the best I can do. First show of the day. I just got out of the shower 30 minutes ago, so.
That's great. Love it. Yeah. Yeah. I love that word superconductor because that's what I'm feeling right now. I feel like what you opened up with the connections and collaborations,
Mm,
feel that there is this superconductive energy right now that is drawing, magnetizing the people who are to work together, to come
yeah.
together even more and create, these heartfelt, soulful conversations and connections and awarenesses. And what I've been noticing too is reflecting on life. Like, what life are we living or have been living, and what's new? What feels really precious and valuable and priority to focus on right now,
Mm,
and take that really deeply into consideration. And as you said, with all these changing belief patterns and how we're going to shape our world, that's how we shape our world. And I feel that too. There's things in my life right now that I thought I was going to be doing, and this happens a lot, but it feels more shifty right now, and or as if, in the past when you'd make a move, it's like you could see what the results were, but it feels like that's more even impactful. Like you said, that instant manifestation. Like,
hmm
I have to just slow down and get really, really clear and go,
Yes.
and that, and just be like, okay, so that I'm creating from that space. And when that happens, it's just like, phew, just everything starts to fall into place while still it feels like everything's shifting at the same
Right.
time. It's a very
Yeah,
interesting space to be in at this
it
moment.
is. Yeah, it is. We use this term over and over, but like walking in two worlds. But
Yes,
the
bridging a lot right now.
yes, we're
Yeah.
bridging a lot, but the to me the whatever you want to call it, like the 5D timeline.
Mm.
Like, I will say that about September. Something there was a dimensional timeline shift. It
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
just a timeline shift within a dimension, it was
Mhm.
another dimension into another dimension, or into the other dimension with more sustainability. It
Mhm.
happened for me around the 18th of September.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So that would have
Yeah.
been, I think, right before that second eclipse. And
Mhm.
it hasn't stopped since then.
Yeah, yeah, that was a powerful week. That was a powerful week leading up. That we had that week of like, whoa, like blasted
Hmm.
energy from the full moon, and then that second week leading up to the new moon, and and the solar eclipse was just
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
changing. It really was. And what I was noticing was I was shown many years ago that the Earth had already anchored in 9D and then it anchored in 12D.
Hmm.
And what I was sensing during this whole eclipse season was, this 22 dimensional, and I haven't really talked about it or wrote about it at all because I'm still watching it and seeing how it's playing out. Like in the 22 dimension, we're talking about structure, right? We're talking about how nature comes into structure, how form fit, energy and form comes into structure. And what I was noticing was a whole shift in that dynamic, especially around how our consciousness is shaping itself around those that are waking up, those that aren't, and the two extremes that are happening right now, and where they're meeting, and how that is shaping reality in this moment, bringing things into form based on constant oscillation of mindset. We have that steadiness, like you're talking about. There is this base steadiness that's happening, what I'm feeling through the Earth's inner core and the inner Earth beings that are holding the space. But there's this element of this 22 dimensional, multi-dimensional piece that's coming in that I was seeing, how like, the Mayans and the Incas and these some of the Egyptians and stuff who are living in these interdimensional spaces. Right now, I feel like those veils are thinning because it's time to bring in those origin codes even more. But there's that element of how are we focusing our consciousness? And it feels like the fabric of reality is changing at such a net like part, it's like the speed that it's changing at and reforming itself constantly right now is intense. It's really intense. And so I find that those of us who are staying steady are going to be able to maintain and hold how the natural cosmic multidimensional structure of, spiritual into form or energy into form is going to take shape on this planet. And for those who are oscillating a lot with fear and uncertainty and doubt and discomfort and getting pulled in from one extreme to the other, it's going to get even more challenging, I think, for those people. And I'm watching it around me. I watch people acting crazy, driving crazy, just like doing stuff. And I'm like,
Hot Springs, Arkansas.
I think some people just aren't like able to flow with this energy or hold or even have an idea of what's going on. And it's hitting those trigger points within them of imbalance, right? And it's just going to cause even more oscillation. So I feel like the more that we can be compassionate with each other and continue to connect this way, like what you're doing on a daily basis, pretty much is like creating these really great connections and holding that steady is going to really support the field in staying steady and letting the pure operation of our fields and our bodies, our templates, have this form as we are shifting, as we did do a lot of completion and we're integrating that and even figuring out what that new is for us right now. The new is present, and yet it seems still a little ambiguous.
Yeah,
So,
wonky.
wonky. Yeah.
No, but that's a really good point you bring up about the well, like the Mayans, the
Hmm.
Incas, the Aztecs, even the
Yes. Yes.
Egyptian. Obviously,
Yep.
there was a I just saw
Indigenous.
something. I just saw
Yeah.
something on this, and I think it was last night or yesterday. It was a video, and it was somebody that I tap into now and then. That's kind of on the scientific side or the
Okay. Mhm.
anthropologic side.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so they were talking about that. Like they were talking about, I think it was the let me think here. It was one of the Spanish conquistadors. That was the basis of the story.
Okay.
And I think it was in actually in North America where
Hmm.
they've covered up a lot of these civilizations, like the
Oh yeah.
mound builders and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they were talking about they were telling this story about the chief and his son, and they were giants. They were bigger than most of their tribe.
Hmm.
And in the story, you could pick up on what you're talking about. Like
Hmm.
this was a booming city. You know what I mean? and
Yeah.
there were many things that were kind of in line with what you're talking about,
Mm.
like this. What I noticed last month, or what was coming through, or what was being shared was, um, you don't make life happen now. Life will happen for well, it'll just unfold for you. Like you're walking
Yes.
down the yellow brick road, and you're in that space of balance, or inner harmony, or that type of thing.
Hmm.
What we're doing, right? You're
Yes.
working on yourself when things pop up and blah blah blah, but something's shifted into this higher dimensional timeline. And the other thing is, to what you said at the end, I saw a lot of that in September,
Hmm.
especially the latter part of September. I mean, I'm literally getting messages and phone calls throughout this 3 or 4 day period from people that ultimately, I mean, for me, felt like they were in the old pattern, kind of wanting some company.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not answering the phone. I'm not talking to anybody. I took a little bait here, a little bait there, but I thought, oh no, I'm not going down this road.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's not even, and it's such a loud difference now. It's not difficult to figure out.
Nice. Yeah. 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 The indigenous songs are getting louder. That's what I'm feeling. There's just from my experience of listening with the earth and listening with and connecting with the indigenous who work in the inner realms, it's like it's it's just like their rhythm, is speaking creation into form, right? And it's getting louder and it's getting louder, and in louder I mean it's really calling the the parts of our consciousness that are remembering, it's kind of speaking to that really loudly. And I it's it's sad to me in a way of sometimes noticing how many people are still, because people are like, what do you mean there's a change? What's happening? So I still see so many people that don't have a clue. And it's true. And if we stay focused on the people that do and stay
Yeah,
focused in that space of that compassion where, yes, and thank you for showing up and maybe wanting company in your discomfort or your misery or your, old programs. It's like, and I'll be over here, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and I love you.
yeah. And you don't really, yeah, I totally get that. And you don't, well, I can only speak for myself, but like you, the words are few. You don't really have these long explanations of trying to show them what's going on, or
Yeah.
why you've got to go stand over here. They're
Yeah.
just these it's these movements away.
Yeah, it's just
Uh,
who you are. You're just
yeah,
being yourself, and there's no need to explain it or get caught up in anything else. That's what I'm feeling, and that strong, that strength, that just new energy that's just keeping me where here, not like
yeah,
keeping me stuck, but just like this is where I need to be, and this
yeah.
is where I need to keep my energy and my focus, my consciousness, my beingness. And if I stray from that, I feel it. I feel it very strongly, and so. It's like, why stray? You know?
Well, another thing I saw last month, and our friend from Arkansas, she's still in Arkansas, Holly Caddy.
Oh
Holly
yeah,
Caddy.
yep. I
Yeah,
was I was just texting with her today.
yeah. She was saying that the 18th was the day she was telling you about, that she had to face things, and that's what I'm saying. I saw a lot of
Yep.
that, and well, we saw a lot of that this summer. You and I talked
Yeah.
about this on the 3rd of September,
Yep.
but there was again several streams that were coming in, that I saw with people that I
Hmm.
was interacting with, and what I was coming across, and it was and I even did a session that was sent to me that was specific to embodying the final embodiment of your galactic aspect.
Yes. Yeah.
And I saw 3 or 4 different versions of people saying that, or expressing that, or realizing that. And then that to me would be how September ended too, or maybe how October's starting now is,
Yes.
uh, this I saw it like, so you have all these you might call them soul aspects that come from the multidimensionality. We've been retrieving them and da da da, and now they're all kind of like a circuit they're turning on
Yeah.
because they're turning on in us, I guess you could say.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Then the other side of it is all the human aspects that we left out there, which was a lot of our shadow work, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is my inner child that was traumatized. This is my teenager that was angry, blah blah blah. And we're pulling all those in at the same time. It's like the soul and the human coming together, and the explanation being that every aspect is coming together at one time in this form at this time, and it's a phenomenal occurrence, and by many accounts never been done before in the multiverses.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm watching that as well. And I just had my podcast this morning
Oh yeah,
and yeah, and I was
what's the name of it? Where is it?
Awakened Soul with Kristen. I have it on YouTube
Oh
and
cool.
yeah, a couple other places. Yeah. And I was talking with Sue DeMay, my friend, and I've been noticing this more and more and more that because we did an activation this morning and during the activations, I'm noticing how ready, as just like you were just saying, the consciousness of ourself in the multidimensional field, in our parallel lives, in everything, the switches are just going on. It's like
Right.
even in, a lot of these, lives where we've been persecuted and traumatized, so much of that is resolving itself because
Yeah.
of the ripple effect of one consciousness of our soul and another. And even if they're going to stay in these other realms and we're not going to, all be one amalgamation of a soul at this point, it's it's changing. It's changing how all these relationships are happening in the field. And so really it's just for me, it's going, okay, wait, if all this healing and resolution and shifting and changing is taking place, then let's just focus on that. Let's
Right.
not
Right.
stay in this mind, because that's what I see sometimes. People just stay in those mindsets that are like, maybe victim or this is a challenge
Right.
or I'm
Right.
scared or this or that. It's like, wait, open to the possibility that these things are changing. And just by doing that, you're inviting this massive ripple that's going through the collective field right now into your body, into your space. And I mean, miracles could happen right now. That's what I'm seeing. Miracles can
Yeah.
happen right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. That's a good explanation. And it's not even like I was watching this guy. He's been around. He kind of blew up in the last couple of years. A lot of those people I have to question, but you still listen sometimes. It's his name is and I'm sure a lot of people know him. Ismail Perez, something like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
And he was talking about, well, there's, I think 2% of the world are people like us. You know,
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know, and I've heard other people say other things.
Yeah.
But like we talked about last time, there's a whole bunch of people saying, "Hey, my family and the people thought I was crazy. They're asking me questions now. They're asking me for advice."
Yes.
And
Yes.
and so Akis talked about, and others I've seen talk about, what we're talking about right now. Like, what is this? What's actually happening? Like the disclosure shoe is going to drop. Something's going to happen. Maybe it's that satellite or whatever it is, or maybe it's some kind of world lockdown or something that's going to wake everybody up or jolt everybody, bigger
Yeah.
than the COVID thing.
Hmm.
And so, to your point, I don't know if it's like I've seen a meme out there that says it's past time to wake people up now. Don't worry
Hmm.
about it. It's like
Yeah.
they're gonna get there, but the best thing we can do is what you're saying,
Yeah.
and what you're saying too about bringing the connectivity that we have is getting stronger and stronger,
Yeah.
and all the work that we've done, plus just the universal transformational cycle, is
Hmm.
cleaning up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's lightening things up.
Yeah.
And really, like you said, the best thing we can do is just keep trying to figure this shift out, and it
Yeah.
seems to be running on, not knowing where you're stepping into, but stepping forward through your unobstructed intuition, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and also the the more obvious it's becoming. There's like you're walking next to me, I'm walking next to you, and there's a whole bunch of people walking with us. Let's just keep
Yeah.
going, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I usually don't talk politics, but it's really fascinating to me right now to see some of the things that are going on, with the UK wanting to go to digital ID and then starting here sometime in October that when you travel to Europe, they're not going to be stamping your passport anymore. They're just going to be using fingerprints. So if you
Wow, I
travel
didn't know
to
that.
certain countries in Europe, once you land, it's like, okay, fingerprint time, and and then Trump deploying troops in different cities and stuff, and it's just really interesting to me to watch this feeling this freedom, so many of us like starting to feel this freedom in our bodies and our systems from these old structures, and then watching them just like, okay, now we're going to do this and do that, and 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 it's just these extremes meeting. And that's why I want to share with people, like, don't get caught up in those things. Like, I even had a moment because I want to travel with my son and I know we want to go to Europe, and I'm like, oh, do I even want to go now? Because I don't, but I'm like, my fingerprints are out there in the system anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's my,
Hmm.
it's like just recognizing, yes, these things are going to happen and we may or may not. This, and like you said, maybe there's going to be this one thing that it's going to wake people up enough to say no. Like,
Hmm.
that is not the system or the structure that I accept in my life, in my experience. And how are we going to then live our life from there? What structures are we going to create
Hmm.
to live our lives through rather than keep saying yes to their structures? And I
Right.
think we're coming up to we're coming up to those moments where there's going to be more masses of people saying no to those structures. And I think COVID was a big piece of that.
Yeah.
We got to play in that. Like, who's
Yeah.
going to say yes, who's going to say no, or who's going to stick to their truth and to their heart and do what's right. And I think that was a good test to see. And I think more and more people now, more than did in COVID, will, make a new choice, make a different choice.
Yeah.
That's going
Well,
to lead us to more.
it's definitely woken up a lot of people and
Yeah.
continues to. But the question is, what choice will they make again? Because, like, what was it, 65 or 70% of the world did it? Uh,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be that number again. Maybe it'd be half
No.
of that number.
Yeah. And
Um,
half is an amazing number, though.
oh yeah, yeah,
Half is amazing. And then let's see what happens if they try something else. And then it's 40%. And then it's 30.
yeah,
And then it's like,
yeah,
it's just going to continually grow because I don't think people want to, honestly, all the security that I think people feel from the systems, I think that's starting to crumble a little bit. And the people that are going to hold on are just going to hold on. But I
yeah.
think people are going to recognize, wow, they don't have my back.
Oh
They
yes,
don't,
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's becoming
Yeah.
more and more obvious.
Yeah.
I look over here in Mexico. I just listened to Sam Altman from Chat GPT giving a video on Mexico, and he
Mhm.
was talking about what they're doing, that they're doing. They're no longer the cheap labor. They're graduates and their PhDs and scientists and engineers aren't leaving anymore. They're staying here. But really, what I'm bringing it up for, it's speaking to like cutting edge thinking. I mean, it's a very free flowing country. I mean,
Mhm.
there's just a lot. If you look at it energetically, it's kind of like a new energy versus the Western world.
Sure.
And
Hmm.
these things that are happening in the Western world, I mean, you can see all the things that had been put in place, like 2030 project, or what do they call it, 2025,
Yeah.
the centralization, and
Hmm.
but you can see it all kind of crumbling. And you can see even like they just passed what, a $70 billion agreement with Pfizer to further the mRNA.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, so you can see both of them running, but I really feel like that what's happening to us is that we're stepping into these higher skills and abilities and sensitivities,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
let's just say the antagonist energies know exactly what our capabilities are, every human
Oh
being.
yeah.
It's
Oh
just going to
yeah.
take a few, a strong minority, which has already started and probably already occurred in the energetic field,
Yeah.
to wake up to it by actualizing it, by doing it. And I feel like that's the phase we're moving into now.
Yep. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all there. So much of the information of how to, and all the subtle senses waking up, all our true, capacities and abilities waking up, and
Mm.
it's like we have all of that coming out at the same time that all of this, you know, I
Mhm.
manipulation of our DNA and manipulation of our bodies. And I was just watching something the other day, and I haven't tracked it to substantiate it yet or, validate it yet. But this man was talking about how they had, he was looking at a patient and they found actual, for the first time that he's seen, genomic integration of some of the things that were in the vaccination actually in the DNA and replicating itself and taking on form and actually, creating cancers in bodies and things like that.
Yeah.
Not to put fear out there, but it's like, and other people coming out and doing these studies and like noticing these anomalies in patients and then doing the deeper research and finding
Yeah.
out what's actually happening and going, wow,
Yeah.
let's do the best we can. And I say these prayers a lot to clear the field of that, all of that nonsense, so that we can have our pure bodies, so that we can be
Yeah.
in that the best that we can. And what's really interesting, I just got, a flash of Neo in the Matrix when he, just was like, all right, just to let himself be absorbed,
Right.
virus by the
Right.
energy. And I think some of us are going to be doing that and letting ourselves have these experiences where we have to go into it to understand it, but
Right.
have the awareness and the power enough to stay in our conscious self as we're going through it so that we can hold the course and dissolve it, and some of us are going to be on the outside holding the field for it. There's going to be all these different levels and layers of awareness that are going on. And some of us, we just have to choose, where do we want to stand? Where do we want to be? And then know that and stand in that truth so that it can power us up and let us go through the process of this wild, wild, this wild world we're living in to usher forward this new way that we do know is taking place. That's not
Yeah.
have all of that, going on. And
Well, I mean, unless there's going to be two, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, if you think about
oh yeah, yeah,
just if you just think about chemtrails alone, the
yeah.
amount of aluminum and metals that's put in our bodies, but somehow or another, we're able to transform through this period, even with other things like fluoride or GMOs.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that transformation has been physical
Mm-hmm.
restoration or regeneration.
Yeah.
I know I've had a lot of regeneration in my back, which
Mm-hmm.
has been without surgery. It's that, and I've heard other people talk about it. I
Yeah.
know, I believe Judith Kuzel talked about it quite a bit a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
People talking about their backs are popping, the spinal fluid's flowing.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but
Yes.
so on one hand, I can see the controlling mechanisms uh, going deeper, further
Oh yeah.
entrenching. Okay.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, I can see they're crumbling. They're not making sense. Like if we go back to the politics that we don't talk about right much because we all know why. But I think there is some relevance to it and we can't turn our back on everything, but not from a sense of, let's march, let's boycott, but to be aware of ourselves and the surroundings. But if you just look at, and I haven't voted since I was 18 years old. And so it's never been a big deal for me. I see it as one system, whatever, in America. But if you look at some of the things, the basic things, we talked about this last time, I think, about the realm being narcissistic, gaslighting us, just bullshitting us. Like if you look at the Epstein files, happened at the same time the Kirk thing happened.
Right.
They decided not to release it, and then you've got these people that were elected or appointed,
Hmm.
like Patel and Trump, and a couple of the other ones who are going against what they were fighting for. You know what I mean? So it's the same playbook from just a different administration, and it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
who's pulling the strings here and all that. But you can get caught up in that. But I really feel like what's happening, just like with the you were saying earlier with the COVID thing, or an individual getting to the point and just saying, hey, you know what? The government doesn't have my back. And
Yeah.
so at some internal level, they start to say, no, I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that. I'm not going to wear that mask. I'm not going to get that shot. I'm not going to abide by that rule or that
Yeah.
law that doesn't make sense. And
Yeah.
so I think that's what's happening. People are they're becoming disillusioned, and they have nowhere else to turn except for themselves, which is the same path we've all been on.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's we've got enough of a groundswell there after all these years, even though it's not out there on the mainstream or even in podcasts. It's just it's in that telepathic circuitry
Mhm.
that we can all dip into and do. Many of us do dip into the morphogenic field or the Akashic records or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to be living side by side for a while. I always think about those sci-fi movies, and maybe I said this on the last one too, where, there's the whole egalitarian community that's living on the edge, still out in the forest that is, and then
Yeah.
there's this, sci-fi city, which now we might call smart cities, right? All this, not
Right.
real living, kind of what I consider fake living,
Right.
quasi living. And but it's still a part of consciousness. You know,
Mm.
it's still a part of consciousness. So it's going to be interesting what level, what aspect of consciousness are we going to choose? And there's probably going to be multiple layers in between from like myself, who would prefer to probably just be out in the egalitarian, just growing food and hanging out and,
Mm.
living life that way as a little village instead of being in that city. And then maybe, there's going to be crossovers. There's going to be little crossovers for a while until whatever form, takes place. And, from my perspective, I feel we will go to that place where all of that, because I don't feel like it can sustain itself. When you take nature out of the equation,
No.
life,
Yeah.
it can't sustain itself. And that's what I see a direction going in, a faction of reality going in.
Yeah.
And I'll stay with the balance, right? I'll stay
Yeah.
with the balance. So yeah, I feel like this year that there may be two. I feel like there may be several,
Could
different
be.
ways that people form their own, especially once where maybe we do have challenges with resources and we're going to have to become more bioregional, decentralized. We're going to have to
Yeah.
figure out how to work with our systems, especially if we're choosing not to be in the greater system. And I'm just sharing all of this because it really made me think when I know that I'm about to, want to go on these travels, and I don't think, other countries besides this certain group of European countries are doing that fingerprint thing, but one of them was one that my son wants to go to, and I was like, like do we want to do that? Do we want
Yeah.
to enter that system and say yes to everything? Like even just recently, was caught off guard when we were traveling to Egypt and they wanted to take our picture, instead of using the boarding pass. They were just use facial recognition and I was like, "No, thank you." And they were
Right.
all looking at me funny. Some of the people, at the gate, they would kind of have some attitude if I didn't want to participate and just use my boarding pass. And so now it's almost like there's no choice. And that's what I was curious about. Is there going to be a choice to where you can opt out? But it doesn't seem so. It's just the way it's going to be. And so now we get to choose, okay, are we just going to carry our frequency? And I thought, well, who cares? Who cares about it? I'll just carry my frequency, embody my frequency, be who I am, and do that. And what's the problem? If I'm still myself, I know who I am, I know where I stand, I know how far I will go within these experiences. Do I want it? Do I want to allow it to limit me? And I think that's where we're coming is let's not let those things limit us. Let's still stay in our unlimited potential and boundless experience of life, and that we can interact with those things. I don't like to interact with AI and things yet because I'm still having my experience with it, of viewing it and watching it because I'm watching how it's merging with people's systems and people don't really recognize it or know that it's happening. And so I'm like, no, thank you. Let me watch it and observe it some more and get to understand it more clearly. So it's like that's where we can be with certain things to say where do we want to stand with it? What do we understand of it right now? And how do we want to decide to move forward? And also still not let what's happening in the world feel like it's going to be a problem for us or a
Mm.
limiting factor.
Yeah.
Because we are, if we're going to do like what you were saying earlier, if we're going to stay in that place where in the morphogenetic field and all of that, then we can create whatever we want in any circumstance.
Yeah, that's true. I've had a couple of lucid dreams that were prominent. These are, going back, a 2 or 3 or 5 years, or
Hmm.
but they were futuristic, and one of them I was in court, and they're like throwing the book at me, and it was all the old rules, and it was kind of like a showdown, I guess. Anyway,
Hmm.
so like in that one, and there was other ones with me, but like in that one I levitated up to the ceiling, and we were like
Okay.
explaining to him that, hey, we're, you know this is, we're here, kind of thing. And then the other one was they had imprisoned me, and twice I escaped by dematerializing and teleporting somewhere else. I know that they were collapsed timelines, but they both stood out for me because it showed me the level of our abilities and the contrast with the world, right? And
Yes.
so I think, the pattern has been to get the individual soul,
Hmm.
okay, or let's just say the container with the soul,
Hmm.
that consciousness of the human with the soul, like the oversoul, or however you want to put it, but to agree to everything. So like when you went through the airport and you didn't want them to take a picture,
Hmm.
that's a strong move energetically. And by the same token, if you choose to do it, like I have friends that took the vaccine
Uh-huh.
and the jab, and and have had discussions with them. There was no pointing fingers either way. It was just a decision they made in their own field that they felt like was the thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think that the pattern has been to plant a seed of control
Mhm.
into,
Yeah.
and it's not just governments. It can be a father in a household or a mother in a household. It could be a spouse. This is all energy. So
Hmm.
I just, you know the way I'm seeing this now is, we have reached a point where we pulled in enough of our aspects. There's enough of our soul is,
Hmm.
in command, or at least in a very consistent way, being a part of every decision. We're seeing each other. It's a contagious kind of thing. It's very, very different than the control, the infrastructure of the controlling system that we've had.
Hmm.
And I know it sounds cliche and crazy, but we're soul.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is about fear and a death program, and and the methodology has been this narcissistic thing. Do as we tell you to do, don't question us.
Hmm.
And then to tell us one thing and then turn around and gaslight you on, wait a minute, you just told us there was 10,000 hours of tapes with individuals having you know, horrible sexual acts with children. And
Hmm.
then you tell us, oh no, they were just, it was something else a
Right.
few months later. That's
Yep.
just an example.
Yep.
But on the other side of this, you talked about these movies with the two societies, the people living out on the land and the people living in the 15-minute cities. There's another thing going on here too, that if we're converging all of our multidimensional aspects, and through shadow work and through the brutal honesty of the soul have pulled back many of our lost human aspects that we didn't want to see or that we were ashamed of or whatever the case was. We're pulling all that back. Energetically speaking, what does that mean? Well, that would mean that as within, without, right? So if we're doing that within ourselves,
Yeah.
are the inner earth civilizations going to come online? Are the indigenous songs going to get louder?
Yeah.
Are the galactics going to show up? Are the elementals and the fae and the elvins going to show up?
Yeah.
Are the animals going to continue to be more telepathic with us?
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's a power to me that
Yeah.
I don't care what they do out here. You can't stop that.
Yeah.
Now what that looks like in the literal world, I don't know, because maybe it's going to go from a literal world or linear world to, and maybe it already has, to a quantum world or to a higher dimensional timeline. And maybe what it looks like is people like us wake up on the 1st of January and we're walking on a, a different dimension of the earth as opposed to a different earth.
Yeah.
And those that choose to stay from a soul perspective in the distortion and in the 3D and in the control and to uh, from the soul choice to stay in that experience to get what we've gotten out of it. Maybe that's what happens. But whatever it is, it's happening.
It's happening.
Like it's happening. We pull in all these aspects, both human and multidimensional,
Hmm.
and there's going to be a mirror effect.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where we're getting now. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think so too. I'm with you. And it's interesting because one of the things I've done over the years is kind of let go of how it's going to look,
yeah,
right? Because I have no idea what it's going to look like when we say our galactic friends are showing up because they're showing up regularly. They're
yeah,
just to me in a very, in form, but it's more form than it has in the past. Yet, it's not full form yet, right? So, and I know for some people there's full form happening. I know for other people, they're not having, much of an experience, and that's fine. But what that's actually going to look like is ships landing on the planet. I have no idea.
yeah,
But it's like what I do know is that like we're talking about this morphogenic field that it's already here. They're already here. All of those things, the elementals are waking up so
mm,
incredibly, like the conversations that are happening, I feel with the trees and people, I feel like more people are coming online with these ways of communicating and being and connecting that maybe they've wanted in the past, maybe they didn't even know was possible, and now it's happening. That, like you said, it's just going to spread. It's going to be a part of the collective fabric of the reality, no
yeah,
matter what's going on. And
yeah,
so that's why I always go back to what I was saying earlier. What are you going to choose to put your attention on?
mm, wow,
Because just that old saying, that set saying, whatever you put your attention on grows, right? So, like, this is this time that we're talking about, all of that change and shift that happened through September. And as we're entering, if we're looking at a calendar ways, but just what happened through those whole cycles of the planets and the moon and the everything, it's like now what I see shifting online is all this planetary consciousness coming back, into effect to where we are going to be, as we are made up of the multidimensional field, as we are made up of these planetary consciousness by being born within relationship with them. It's funny you asked me about astrology before. I don't know if that was before we were live or not, but I was like, no, I'm not an astrologer, but I do connect with the consciousnesses of the planets, and I get shown different things, and I connect with some of the beings that live on these planets still and have been, that have also had to retreat to different dimensional aspects and or inner aspects of the planets because of what's happened over time. And and what I see is they're coming back online, and they're present, and they're wanting to have again this flourishing field of life. It's not just earth to flourish and have life again, it's the whole cosmos. It's all these systems that have been working in tandem and in relationship and
mm,
cycle over, you know eons of time, but just really space and distance and creation, these
mm,
creation points. And I feel that the more that we recognize the bigger picture too of what's taking place, we shift just from this macro idea of our life and waking up and all this stuff. It's like going, wow, we're shifting from surviving to thriving
Hmm.
right now if we choose that,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we choose to hone in on that. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I heard too, this really the last couple of months, not that it hadn't been out there before, but people specifically saying it in their own way, which is they're getting messages through these connections, whatever connections they have, like you have yours,
Hmm.
like you
Hmm.
tap into these other planets and these other civilizations and beings, that they're the soul family, the monad, the friends, whatever you want to call
Hmm.
it, the team
Yes.
is saying now more than ever, call on us.
Yes.
But if you've got to call on us, we can't just step in. And so I think that's important. It's important, from my perspective, someone like you, like, what planets are you tapping into? Uh, what have you experienced? So much of the things that you've experienced in your life, especially before 2012, for
Okay.
most people,
Yeah.
um, people didn't talk about it. It wasn't something that you could talk about.
Yeah.
Anything related to just anything with what was done to so many women and some men, in the which, that period of where they were stomping things out.
Hmm.
Just the trauma of all that in our DNA would
Hmm.
make people apprehensive and
Yeah.
tentative to be able to share. But now that's being shared. These types of things are being shared, and then you have the young people, the children that are coming on that are super high frequency, and they, I think that's a lot of what you're seeing now in
Yeah.
some of these countries where they're hitting the streets, like in Tibet and a couple other places. I can't remember where they were. London, I think, was one. There was a couple other countries that kind of jumped off the charts with these demonstrations and the changes they were forcing.
Yes.
But
France.
it feels like that that's that's something that's going to become more part of, like you said, the fabric of life,
Hmm.
and that could be, I think it's going to be all of the above. I think it's already happening because I know it's happened to me, and I
Yeah.
know it's happening to other people, whether it be all of the above in the sense it's galactic, elemental, angelic, the planetary, other planets,
Hmm.
it's coming online,
Yeah.
and it's available, which means it's becoming, as it comes into our awareness, it's becomes part of our consciousness, and then again we can tap into everything that we're connected to. And the other thing I heard too, I just remembered during this month, was basically the ancestral trauma
Hmm.
has left has
Hmm.
left the house.
Yeah.
It's left the room, and we're not operating in the space of, let's say, pain and suffering. It's a choice. That's a choice, like you were talking about earlier. We get to choose now. Because if you go down this road, which we've gone down this road before, uh, you kind of know what you're going to expect. But if you go down this road, we really don't know because we haven't done it in so long,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of years or whatever. It's not a clear cut path. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that, when I do research and I watch video clips and this and that, that's one thing that turns me off real quick, is when it's like, well, this is what's going to happen, and you got to do this and you got to do that, and I'm a ascension expert or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
um, I get more out of talking to the people, the boots on the ground,
Yeah.
because they have as much ability or more than the people I see on Gaia, the people I see channeling on ancient aliens, or the information that's given. I mean,
Yeah.
these are people that have become the composite of not only all of their lives, but their ancestral lineage and everything that goes with it. This is power.
Yeah.
This is Atlantis. This is Lemuria. This is Avalon. This is other planets. This is,
Yes.
all of this information coming into one voice and one mind. And that's
Yeah.
exciting to me, you know.
Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. It's exciting to me too. I'd rather go down the road of mystery and
Mm,
unknown than think that there's just one path and one way, because that's so, like I was talking about earlier, we're unlimited. That feels really limiting to me and controlling.
Mm,
And when you were talking about the gaslighting, it was really fascinating because I see how, you know, impervious it is and how people do it to themselves and we don't even realize it. I used to do it to myself, almost gaslight myself like, oh, I received this or I did this, but no, that can't be true.
mm,
That can't be real. You know what I mean? And it's like how we've been programmed to even do it to ourselves.
yeah.
And so believe in the wild, believe in the, just like doing work with people and mentorships. Like, wow, I had this meditation and this thing happened. Is that my imagination or is this? And I was like, well, regardless, you experienced it. And just like our brain can experience anything in our imagine that we imagine is real, it doesn't distinguish between, oh, it happened because you were physically doing it or you playing a scenario out in your head. It is real.
That's
It is
right.
real for you. So take it in and take what is there for you from it instead of doubting and thinking it's unreal or it's, you know, because that to me is a part of feeding that program where we can't have those kinds of experiences,
Yeah.
that we're not these like multidimensional amazing beings where all these things can really happen and take place and have these communications with, other beings and such. It's like believe it and take it in and welcome, invite that information and release these programs of gaslighting ourselves or being narcissistic towards ourselves.
Yeah.
And, it's not letting what's happening out, like you were saying, that whole thing. It's like you watch it. It's a play that they're doing, and they're gonna do all that they can to say one thing and do another. And I've been watching that same thing. I've been watching that since I was a youth too. And like I'm not gonna vote because there's nothing to vote for.
Mm. Yeah. Vote for the truth.
There is
Yeah.
nothing to vote for, because it's all a drama to keep a certain theme going on this planet.
Yeah.
And like I said, they don't have our back. It's not for us,
No. No.
it's for them.
Yeah.
And so it's not really an us and them thing. There's still wholeness and it's still unity. But if we can see that thread of wanting to create something different, then it's not really. And I was thinking about this earlier when you were talking about it because I was in meditation earlier and I was just tapping into myself and the word radical came up. And I have been more of a radical in my life. I was an activist when I was younger and
Mm,
organized protests, and now I'm over here from organizing protests to now organizing these events to
mm,
bring people together and
mm.
uplift and have, these amazing soul and heart connections. It's like, where is that activated rebel or radical that's within us that is going to be, the ones that are holding the space, doing the actions, doing the things that are going to, be a soulful experience. Like you said, we are soul. Like, where is this soulful experience going to be in your life? And
Yeah.
let yourself have those, radical thoughts, those radical experiences, that radical honesty with yourself that and I had this one woman once, I said something about, when you are focusing on yourself and you're doing the healing and shifting in your own life, you change the world by doing that.
Mm,
And she could, it was like really challenging for her to like, she just wanted to kind of say, oh, that's cliche or whatever.
mm.
But then she started having these experiences and she came back and she was like, wow,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what
it's
I'm talking
happening,
about.
like I
Yeah.
get it now.
But when you said, where's the radical? Well, I,
Yeah.
I think what's radical is what we've done. What's
Yes.
radical is the shadow work.
Yeah.
What's radical is to evolve through that discourse of our insecurity and our intuition.
Yes.
You were talking about the gaslighting. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another way to look at it. But
Hmm.
so we're kind of come out of this thing now, and yeah, so it's things like how do you feel about your mother and your father? Because that's Father God and Mother Goddess.
Yes.
Okay. So even if you don't know them, even if you were adopted, even, you're talking about uh, what created you,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and, and then if you look at the many narratives that talk about we pick our parents. So in
Hmm.
a sense,
Yeah.
we birthed them, and then we're both the progenitor, and and also the golden child. So there's this.
Yeah.
So if you take that to a human level, that's exactly what that you're talking about with this lady. How many people have you practitioners worked with, or we experience in our own life, where we reach a higher level of compassion and connectivity, let's just say in this case with our mother and our father.
Yeah.
I mean, talking to so many people over the years and so many times, and they would say, "Oh, you don't know my mother," you know. Well, you're a light worker, and how are you going to be one with everybody if you can't be one with the Mother Goddess and Father God,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like everybody else from a human experience. It hasn't been a bed of roses with my mother and my father, but something happened to me when I reached the point, and it wasn't that long ago.
Hmm.
I mean, I had levels, you know, but it was last year,
Hmm.
and I was in a specific meditation, and it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. You know, so do I have, as a human being, access to grind? Absolutely. But
Yeah.
that's not my life anymore.
Yes.
I'm not. And so what happens is that individual then starts to have, uh, notice, like your client starts to notice the direct changes that are happening they have. So
Yeah.
their perception, therefore their energy, uh, their tonality, their resonance has changed. And
Yes.
so this is what we run into, that's why we piss a lot of people off, because we shine a bunch of light on them. But there is a connection. Somebody said it yesterday on one of the shows, between elimination and illumination, like
Mm.
eliminating these
Yes.
limitations that you're talking about by the
Yes.
choices that we make.
Hmm.
And anyway, going back to the whole radical thing, I think we are the radicals,
We are.
and it's not these major protests. I know, and everyone's going through a different experience. I get that, and we all have different roles. But the
Yeah.
people that we seem to have in these groups or whatever, seem to have a commonality. There's a common denominator, and that is these stories that they've come on here and told all these years,
Yes.
and it has perseverance. It has, real self introspection. It
Hmm.
has, openness, an evolving openness, and unity. But again, how are you going to have oneness and unity and connectivity with all these different things that we're talking about if you can't have it with another person, or with your father, or with your mother? It doesn't mean you have to like them. It doesn't mean you have to live with them,
Yeah.
but to actually, feel within your own field, which is you, because they're you.
Yeah.
All the DNA that you have came from them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a lot of people. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, uh, how can I ever have that, uh, beyond, myself, if I can't have it with these key people?
Yeah. No,
And that, to me,
yeah.
is a powerful. And look, if you look at the destructuring of the Western world, primarily,
Yeah.
it's been a major emphasis since probably the 60s, to destroy the families.
Yes. Hmm.
Period. So
Yeah.
why do you think that is? I mean, come
Yeah.
on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why do you think
Yeah.
they want to indoctrinate the children?
Hmm.
I mean, so it's not that hard to figure out. And at the end of the day, we're right back where we started, which
Yeah.
is up, which is ourselves, which is the last place we were told to look. And that's where the gaslighting yourself comes in, because of the conditioning we've had.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Wow. I love where you took that. And it really made me feel this sense of, beauty in the world of, just saying, let's heal those wounds. Like whether you not, like you said, have a relationship with them or not, it's what you're carrying inside
Yeah.
of you, what you're choosing to still hold on to, or, you know, blame, any blame or guilt or shame or anything like that. It's like that's heavy. it's heavy and we no longer need to hold on to that. And I was even thinking of extrapolating it to siblings because of just thinking about that circle of children,
Of
like how
course.
we relating to that. And I just wanted to share that the first time I left home for a period of time and I came home, I was 19. And I just remember having a very strong, distinct knowing that even though there were things that my parents did in growing up that I didn't appreciate or were
Right.
hurtful or whatever, that first time leaving home and then coming home, I recognized an appreciation for them and for their life. Being away gave me some distance to be like, oh, wow.
Right.
And I made a decision at that point that no matter what, I was going to be friends with my parents
Right.
and I
Right.
wasn't going to hold on to anything. And, there are things here and there that pop up, but more than anything, I just like to hang out with them and have a good time on the level that I can.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, they still don't understand what I do. They don't have, for whatever reason, their consciousness can't go there, and that's okay. I mean, my mom may ask me a million times, what do you do again? Like,
What do you do? What do you do?
and, like it's okay. I'll
Uh,
explain it again. Maybe one day she'll be like, oh, but maybe not. I'm not
yeah.
attached.
Yeah, I think
I'm not attached.
yeah. And see, I'm such an open book. I just tell them straight up, like, you hear voices? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, I hear
Oh
voices.
yeah, I tell them all sorts of stuff, but but then they're like, like it just like
Yeah.
twists their brain so much that they only can take so much, and then they're like, yeah, okay, whatever you do,
Yeah.
I love you, like
Yeah.
it
I mean,
doesn't
that's
matter,
that's that's
you
very
know?
common. I mean, that's very common, like with the people who come on the show, that they're,
Yeah,
they're the rainbow sheep of or the golden child of or the black sheep, whatever you
yeah,
want to call it. But
and
guy, you just touched on something. Um, oh yeah, like, yeah, because that's really where it's at. We get caught up all that stuff out there, which is,
yeah,
look, all the streams that are put forth, you could say the propaganda, what's presented. This is why I won't even watch Netflix now.
mm,
I won't watch anything because I know I can feel the vibe behind it. I'm
yeah,
not
they're
saying that the
feeding it.
actor isn't sincere or the director isn't sincere, but
Hmm.
it is a tainted infrastructure. It's from the old paradigm. So
Yeah,
all these things are meant, the events that happen, they're meant for us to choose a side. And sometimes in these situations, in these streams, be it political, be it whatever, it's not easy not to have a favorite, like, oh, I'm pulling for them, and
yeah, yeah,
but this is
sports
this
or
is
whatever.
well, sports has a whole other thing. I
Yeah,
mean, that's that, I loved sports as a kid. I loved playing sports,
me
and I
too.
loved sports in the 60s and the 70s and maybe the 80s, but
Yeah,
like everything else, it's gotten crazy.
yeah,
Like if you look at they're raising hell right now because they announced who's going to be the halftime at the next Super Bowl.
uh-huh,
And it's the same old stuff. It's
yeah, yeah,
this androgyny, it's this devil symbolism, and
yeah.
and so what I see happening,
What's
and
that?
I feel like it's universally guided,
Yeah,
is that those bad actors that are our playmates, that's the way I look at it anyway. You don't have to agree with me, anybody, but that they're making it more and more of a mockery.
mm,
They're throwing it in our face. And the reality is that that's universal pressure that will turn us back into ourselves.
yeah,
And as we look and become more, because that's what we're doing, is we become more
mhm,
aware of what we are,
yeah,
and then you take in the code from the human experience. It's right up the road of what we were just talking about. It's your
yes,
partner, it's your child, it's your
hmm,
siblings, it's your mother and your father first and foremost.
yes,
Because if you don't have that, you know what I mean? If you have a bad
yeah,
feeling towards either one of those two, then it's really self-reflective. And
yes,
sorry if you can't make that connection, but if you haven't tried to go down that path,
yeah,
that's the way the whole thing's set up because we keep ending up right back where we started.
Yeah,
And
and it creates those cycles, those ongoing cycles to the ancestry, right?
yeah,
And so just compassion for those people where it can be really hard too.
mm,
Just sometimes the more that we just, okay, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit there, to repair our own thoughts and ways of feeling and of relationships with people, because some are more challenging than others. And I get that, but then there gets a point where you just can't hang on to it anymore. But it ripples forward and back, it ripples for our generations coming and it ripples to
yeah,
our generations back, but then of course changes the whole morphogenetic field again
yeah,
because of that shift in the field that's so profound. It's so profound.
that's right.
And 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 you touched on something too when you were talking earlier, because I had this thought. I was just about to maybe get a subscription to Gaia, and there's no offense or judgment to anyone who watches that, because I think there is some fascinating information that comes out. But it's just, for me, all of a sudden, I was in the field of it.
Hmm.
One, because I was seeing that it's just like other
It
productions
is. Yeah.
that they basically buy and own people, because I
Hmm.
was talking to someone if they wanted to be on my podcast, if we could do or go on YouTube or something, and she's like, well, I have to ask Gaia. Like there was no freedom
Yeah.
and who she was able to say yes or no to or have a life, because she had to clear it with.
Yeah. It's
And
the same. Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, I had, I didn't realize it,
Yeah.
but I never got a subscription because I always felt like
Mm.
I always felt an energy with
Yeah.
it, right? And so that made me help me understand what I was feeling.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
get it. I get it
yeah.
totally. And if look at Operation Mockingbird, I mean, that was declassified. I mean, that started in, I think, the late 50s, where the CIA, made it a point to have people employed in every media
Mhm.
venue.
Yes.
So newspapers,
Yes.
televisions, and we know all this
Yeah.
now, but why
Yeah.
do you think it'd be any different on the internet, or a
Yeah.
Gaia TV? Or so,
Yeah.
to me, it's
Yeah.
like it's everything becomes becomes confusing, convoluted. You get all these different connotations of, you just finally just put your hands over your ears and say, wait, I'm picking me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Now, if I'm
picking.
going to pick me, and yeah, we got all these downloads and channelings and transmissions and connections and memories,
Hmm.
but that's another thing that's changed this year. It's like I've heard people say, well, my guides aren't like talking to me that much, or like,
Yeah.
because we've embodied it, we've embodied enough. And I guess the I was going to say the prerequisite to it is claiming all of these parts of our human, like the inner child and the teenager and the narcissist and the empath and the events and the situations and the
Yeah.
patterns that we discover about ourselves and the programs that we're all subjected to the same thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that this whole thing, like you were talking about with the blame and the shame and having an exception to the rule. Yeah, but you don't know my father, but you don't know my mother, you don't know what happened to me.
Mm.
Everybody's pain and suffering is the same in proportion to their life experience.
Yeah.
It's like, remember, I had a lady on the show one time, and we were taking phone calls, and it was very impressive because I knew this lady and she'd beaten cancer twice.
Mm.
Okay. And so the lady calls in and says, I have cancer. Can
Uh-huh.
you help me? And the lady that was on the show with me said to her, I don't know how it feels for you.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
know I had it, but I can't speak for you. Like,
Yeah.
it was such a high level of respect,
Yes.
respecting their reality, another person's reality, as equal to your own, and
Yeah.
giving it its props and its respect for
Yeah.
its own individual experience.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a humbling experience, and if you're not eating humble pie, I've said this for years for myself, that's my barometer.
Yeah.
Are you growing more humble today? Are you grateful to be walking on the earth? Are you grateful to be taught in this incarnation? Are you grateful to have the
Yeah.
multidimensional connections you have, or the relationships you have, or the children you have, or you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
that's, we can't be everything to everyone, but we can be everything we need to be to ourselves. And I know that sounds a bit cliche too, but like you told that client, and like she came back and saw in her own experience, that's the best thing we can do for the world. We're energy,
Yeah.
you know? And if
Yeah.
you know what I mean, we're energy. So if I can serve myself to the best of my ability, which is a constant thing, there's
Yeah.
always an evolution to it. But I
Yeah.
really feel that, if you broke it down to the biggest leaps, quantum leaps, dimensional time shift leaps that we take,
Hmm.
somewhere at the root of it is a basic component of the sacred, right? Which
Yeah.
is probably the Trinity, and
Yes.
that's the mother, the father, the child,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so in the human form, where it's so dense, you actually have the most bang for your buck
Hmm.
because you're converting from a very low density, and you have, of course, the potential of
Yeah.
the degree that you've gone down to. Where in other environments, people that are familiar with other planetary, and you could talk to this, planetary experiences, or the energy of a planet, or the beings on the planet, we have a huge range here.
Hmm.
We have a giant spectrum, and
Yes.
a giant level of free will. Where
Yeah.
many of these other places, they have free will, but it's a smaller box. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Has that been your experience? Because that's been mine.
As far as planetary,
Yeah, just other environments that you tap into. It's not like the wild, wild west here in the earth.
yeah, it's fascinating to me because you brought up so many points. My head's going, okay, which way do I go in, right? Because I feel that, Earth is an experimental ground. The US and some of these other countries, I feel, is a huge experimental ground. I feel like USA is a ground of let's see what we can do, right? Let's see how far we can push things out in the open.
There you go.
And other countries on this planet, it's happening, things are happening, but there's this level of experiment on so many levels that fascinates me. And then all these experiments are happening in the other places. They're not as disclosed. We might find out about them, which is
Mm,
unfortunate for, the indigenous peoples that are getting well, I'm screwed over, I guess, in some ways by
mm,
experiments with vaccines and different things.
mm,
Uh, but then I see, it's just like this planet, is a reflection of what's going on out in the universal field too. Yeah, like one time I was in meditation and these beings from Mars showed up and they're like, please, help us. There's, all this excavation happening on our planet and there's no, and everyone's like, oh, can we get to Mars? I'm like, they're already going to Mars,
oh yeah.
there's
Oh
already
yeah.
stuff going on, you
Yeah.
know. And it's the same thing that they've done here on this planet. Let's just roll over the people, the indigenous, the natives, the first peoples, and do what we want, whether it's a alien race to us, what we might call them, but they're just still beings that
Hmm.
are living and there. And it was like, wow, so yeah, I feel that there's so many different, levels of experience. And then I feel that there's planets where there's still a lot of uh highly advanced things going on where there's more balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot more balance. And when the distortions came to this planet, we were a balanced planet, and then the distortions came, and then boom, now it is. It's all sorts of wild, wild west stuff going.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
we've got
it's a universal seeded planet, like we talked about.
yeah, yeah.
But you're
And
right.
that
There's the oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I
There
was
was a
just going
light.
to say what you were talking about, and what I wanted to bring was the alchemy. We are alchemists
Yeah.
by just existing. Our system, our memory, our knowing is alchemy. And while you're talking about that Trinity the Trinity is a powerful symbol that when we can actually hone in on it, it's like it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's a powerful symbol for us to remember the wholeness of things and the individuated pieces that make up the wholeness that can flow in synergy that are powerful when we really take into awareness the feminine and the masculine and the child, and
Yeah.
that we are all of that. And when we come into balance with those things within our own lives, that ripple effect is so incredible because then we're in unity with
Yeah.
ourselves.
That's right.
And that's pure alchemy right there.
That's right. And then that is it. That's the philosopher's stone right there.
Yes, it
And
is.
so you can take mother, father, you can take partner, you can take child, you know, and this is not a scorecard that anyone else gets to grade you on. They
Right.
might want to, that this whole judgment coming at you is because, like you used the word impervious, you become impervious to the judgment coming at you because you're no longer judging yourself. And if you're no longer judging yourself, you're no longer judging other people. But these are things that you can talk about, but to actually feel them and to embody them. See, I feel that these things are as important, if not the actual prerequisite, you know, under the saying of, you know, if I release the darkness, more light can come in. That's
Hmm.
just a metaphor, but you know, these are the things that are, like you said, that are send out the ripples and the repercussions throughout the multiverses. See, that's the other thing too. If people understood, hey, if I can bring my mother and father into the same space as I am and be that Trinity,
Yeah.
I'm actually quantumly entangled all the way out to the far ends of the multiverse. So, you know, my reunification, you might say, or unity or oneness with these two beings may be the final piece of the puzzle that brings the peace to the Pleiadians and Anunnaki rift, you
Yes,
know, or
exactly.
Orion and Lyran rift, or you
Hmm.
know, whatever. But
Yeah. Yeah. That key that you talked about of humility is so powerful.
mm,
And that came through the solar eclipse, the new moon solar eclipse. And I remember I was listening to someone, and I can't remember which one it was that mentioned humility because it was a Virgo, it was a Virgo moon, a Virgo sun, eclipse, new moon thing happening. And the word that was coming through strongly was humility. And the astrologer said it, and it was actually like someone that I work with and a friend that was like, man, and she was a Virgo, right? She's like, humility. Humility came through in a meditation. And then I hear it from this astrologer to describe, how to work through this whole Virgo moon solar eclipse. And so I sat with it and I was like, what is it? And I looked up the definition of, humility. And it was like having a modest view of yourself, but not thinking you're less than, not having a
right,
negative view. It's
right,
a modest view, not less than, not more than, just being. You just
yeah.
are. And that humility, because I think some people take humility or humbleness as you have to like bow
Mm-hmm.
down or be smaller or
Mm-hmm.
like the religion teaches be in poverty or
Right.
whatever it is,
Overly modest. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not. It's actually humility and humbleness is balance, is centeredness.
I mean, and I say it every day. They're serving humble pie. But
Yes.
humility for me is a lot of things. You know,
Mhm.
humility, like I can remember being in jail, you know, and they strip
Mhm.
you down and they treat
Yeah.
you like a dog
Yeah.
and you
Feed
know,
you dog food. No.
yeah. Well, there's a part of you that goes, wow, how did I end up here? And you know, and
Yeah.
all these other things going on, and then the fact that you can actually do it, it brought me humility, or the fact that I could interact with 25 other men in a cell, and live in like a little micro civilization, and there
Mhm.
was, you know, there was street rat, and there was just culture, you know, and there
Mhm.
was differences, and there was strengths, and it was just a. But to me, the biggest doses come from the the admissions from my human, or you might say my ego,
Mhm.
where I say I was wrong,
Mhm.
or you know, I got taught a big lesson this
Yeah.
last month, uh, and a friend of mine stepped in and said, "Yeah, well, have you seen the other side here? Have you
Oh.
put yourself in the other person's shoes?"
Mhm.
And I thought, well, to the best I could. But then she explained a few things to me, and I was like, well, oh, wait a minute, you know.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's what it is. And we talked about this last month, but
Yeah.
it's a life review in form. And
Mhm.
a life review is when you have that uh, the perception of the other, not just your perception, but you have the perception of the other. And so, you know, for instance, I can do something with the highest intention, but because of your trauma you might take it a certain way. And so even though I meant the best thing I could,
Yeah.
just because you're coming from a different place and of your life experience, you took it on and it caused you pain.
Mm-hmm.
This is valuable information,
Yeah.
right? So what happens the next time? The next time I know that, and
Mm-hmm.
I will have this further code, and so the
Yeah.
humility for me comes from um, yeah, understanding the other person and not just speaking words. So if it's my mother, or my father, or my sibling, or whatever, to actually walk the talk and I mean, I'll tell you straight up, I pulled my mother up for years. I started doing this, meditation stuff like at 22, 23. And not that, I'm not pointing my mother out, I'm just using an example because I did it with many, many people and
Yeah.
just pull them up in meditation, look at them as they're sitting next to like this, across from me in a chair
Yeah.
and just lay it on the line, just, hey, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
This is, this and that, whatever I want my team get with her team or whoever the person is and let's move this to a higher level, or is there something I'm missing or whatever. That's, that effort is is worthy and worthwhile. But I mean,
Absolutely.
overall, that to me, that's where the humility comes in. It comes in when you say I was wrong or I'm sorry or and really I'm sorry to myself, I'm sorry for gaslighting myself. I'm sorry for judging myself. I
Yeah.
mean, that's huge for me. That was probably the biggest turnaround for me, or one of the bigger ones, not turnaround, but one of the bigger thresholds I crossed was in 2021. And I juiced for about 9 months.
Wow.
And I was, when you do that, you have a lot of stuff come up,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I constantly say to myself when something would pop up, I'd say, okay, no judgment. Be the first thing I say, no judgment, Todd. Now let's work through it. Right.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know. That's a kind of went off on a tangent, but yeah, this was good though. We went through an hour
Yeah.
and a half again, like in 20 minutes. But yeah,
I
I
appreciate
appreciate you
you.
coming back on again, and
Yeah.
I will reach out to you again if you're interested. We
Yeah,
can.
I love rapping with you and have a good time and just sharing and seeing what comes alive between us as we bring forth what's present. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I appreciate everyone who's listening. So thank you for being here. Yeah.
Will you take care and say
Thank
hello to
you.
Hot Springs from me, and
I will.
maybe I'll see you down the road over
Yeah,
there.
I hope so. I know we talked about that last time, so I hope so.
If I knew where I was going or what I was doing, I could tell you.
Oh, the plans have changed, or like the plan has changed then. I take it.
I don't know. I have no idea. There is no plan. That's the whole
I know
thing.
exactly.
We'll be back in an hour and a half with the second show of three today. So.
Incredible.